Hey guys, this is Steven with Longevity X. Back in here, I want to talk a little bit about what makes the X3 bar different than lifting weights at the gym. Okay. One key factor, this is a major factor, scientific principle behind this system is hypoxia. So with constant tension, I don't know if you're not familiar with hypoxia, it's basically a lack of oxygen. And what happens is when you have constant tension, by being under the band, right? Because it's increasing the tension as you get stronger and it's decreasing it as you move it back, but it's never offloading. It's never zero. Okay? So you're going to maintain some degree of tension on the muscle, even if it's just 15 or 20 pounds of pressure, there's going to be some tension on the muscle. So when the muscle stays contracted, new blood, so constant tension means when it contracts, blood's pumping into it, okay, because it needs to supply oxygen, right, to contract the muscle. So you contract the muscle, but when you release, when you lengthen it, you don't actually relax the muscle. When that muscle doesn't relax, there's no blood leaving the muscle. Blood gets pumped in again when you contract again. And then when you bring it back, there's no blood leaving because I'm not relaxing. So the muscle stays contracted throughout the whole entire movement. It doesn't release because the release is what would let the blood go. So when you stay contracted, the entire set, you're pumping, every rep, you're pumping more blood into the muscle, but it's not leaving the muscle. And what that does is there's a lack of blood returning to the heart. And what that does is it regulates a protein called myostatin using the principle of hypoxia. Under constant tension, it locks blood in the muscle and it doesn't let it return to the heart. When the heart perceives that there's no blood returning, there's part of the musculature is missing. That's what it perceives. And so it regulates myostatin. So if you've ever seen that bull or the dog that is just, it almost looks roided out, right? It's just completely overwhelmed with muscle. It's because they regulated and manipulated that protein called myostatin and they lowered it. So the genetic potential to hold muscle on the frame is enhanced because myostatin limits muscle. So if you turn that up, you're going to shrink. If you turn that down, you're going to swell up. And maybe not that dramatically, but that is kind of how to think about, it might not be that simple, right? But the hypoxia is a great benefit that increases your genetic potential to hold muscle on your frame. Okay, and you get that. There's some things that can replicate that, like a blood flow restriction band. The problem is that heavy weight is the thing that allows your muscle to grow. You have to put heavy force through the muscle and achieve progressive overload to a certain degree. And it's really difficult to do that when you have cuffs or a tourniquet on your arm. It's tough to do that. It's tough to put heavy force through it. You got to do a little bit lighter weight. So it's okay, but it's trying to mimic the effect of hypoxia and blood flow restriction to the muscle. So blood flow restriction is doing a few different things too, with like kind of pooling lactate in the muscle, which has some other different benefits than what we're talking about. But constant tension is going to be something that's really important and really hard to replicate. It's really hard to do with a weight because as soon as you get out of kind of the hole, as they call it, right? You get it up to where you have mechanical leverage. It's pretty easy. There's not a lot of tension on your muscles. Especially when you start to bend down and bring the bar or the dumbbells below midpoint and you do the lower half of the rep, there's very little muscle tissue that's even active in that position. So a lot of the pressure goes onto the shoulder, which is what we want to avoid and why we can lift heavier with less risk of injury if you can have variance in the resistance.